The number one for clubs is the Comedy Store. Comedy Store is it's in just off Leicester Square in London, and it has a massive picture of Robin Williams on the way in. They're saying to Don's the owner, thanks for giving me my start, ho ho, Robin Williams, right? Which Robin Williams never played there. The guy bought a big picture of Robin Williams and signed himself on the whole thing. And then there's loads of other framed photographs of it, but the Robin Williams is a total scam.
I want to ask you some other questions before we run out of time.
Yeah,
but
sorry, I do just go off, don't I?
No. It's great, man. It's awesome. But I mean, I found your show here last night and your craftsmanship so exciting to watch. And I think I think another time I'd love to learn even more about that process, because it seems apparent to me, just reading a little bit about you, about your theoretical physics background, your education, and all. You build a show, bringing all of that to the table. It's
interesting because it's people ask, amazing how many people think that that somehow that gives you some sort of formula that you can use, and really you only recognize that stuff in retrospect and go, I suppose, oh, that's a bit like I've used a logical trick there or whatever. It's one of the reasons I quite like is because you don't actually. It's the one you can overthink things. I can tend to overthink things, and I find that when I'm on stage, panicking about, oh shit, this isn't going well, the moment of panic is when the joke appears. Like in the audience, when you do the audience chat thing, you go, hey, so the process of writing is, I'll sit in a room in a kind of and I'll write any shit down. Oh, cans with ring pulls, no, is that a thing? Oh, bottles, is there anything in that? Like, is there anything in glasses? I'm glass and and then you'll throw every idea, and then you'll get a few ideas, and then you'll go to a small club. Like all that thing is, you go to a small club.
And you work it out.
And in the panic on the stage where you walk in, you go, this is shit. Hopefully your brain will go, okay, fuck it, I'll save you. I'll get you. We'll hear something. Say this instead. This will work, right? And it's almost like I've got to trick my brain into getting into this kind of not being self-conscious, just fucking going for it and throwing everything out phase, and then the stuff appears, and then you hone them.
So it's like necessity kind of
totally. It is absolutely. Oh shit, I'm going to die here unless I come up with something.
You're forcing your like survival instincts out, right?
It's lizard brain.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. And your lizard brain panics and goes, okay, well, you know what's a bit like, this is a bit like sex or whatever, like you'll go, oh, great, I can fucking say that, like whatever. And stuff will come out like whatever. And so it's a series of those gigs basically are what writes it. So you might get the premise in the dry bit in sitting in the room with a piece of paper, but actually a lot of the time it's I just got to go on stage and you got to fuck around and see what happens, and so, but actually in the core of it is 6 good ideas. I mean, if you could write a 2-hour show if you get 6 good ideas, because I'm not trying to be Stephen Wright, like I'm not trying to write the perfect 14-word distillation of something. I'm an Irish comic. I will do the fucking donkey ride before this, up to the point where the story happened, and I'll recap the story 9. Like I will drag out every bit of the process. I'll do the pre-game analysis and the post-game within the story, like whatever. So if you have an idea, you can fucking I'm the kind of, we will wring that a fucking idea out, and I will do any. If a funny thing happened, I will do the precursor, the bit after the whole thing, and it'll add up to, and hopefully that'll build the thing. But if you get 6 really good ideas, then
that's what you need.
You can rule the world with that.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome to get some insight into that process. But let's talk, like, why comedy? How in the beginning? I think I read that you were in kids, writing kids.
No,
that's how you started.
I did kids TV for a while when I started off, because it's the only thing you can get employed in television when you're 22 and just out of college. Okay. They'll put you into kids TV because it kind of trains you how to do all these, like single camera or live or all these kind of things, or to be broadcasting and part of a team and all that. So they'll put you in kids TV where it doesn't really, you can make all your mistakes. So it's a very good place to train new presenters coming through.
But then you were in that. But then before that, you were studying theoretical physics. Before that, you were in sports too, right?
What was that I went to university to do science, and then went into university they used to do these big debates. It was a big college debating thing, and so I went and did the debates. And they're these big meetings we have in the Irish where politicians will come over or you okay with that? Beep, beep, beep. That's just so we know that there's a truck reversing.
Yeah, there's a truck outside. Yeah, we're very near Milwaukee, the street outside.
Okay, and so they used these big kind of public debates, and they would have politicians in and journalists in, and then students would also speak. And I remember sitting at the back as a callow 18-year-old watching the other students doing it and going, fuck, I'd love to be able to do that. And I felt the envy was a great driver, and I went and did that, but found that I put in jokes. And that's honestly I found myself in front of audiences.
So you were bringing humor to your debates.
And then that's what I did. And then I ended up winning a couple of competitions. We ended up doing an American tour at one stage, which was, the weirdest American tour.
How old were you?
I was 22, 21?
Exciting,
yeah. It was really weird. But but it was like a random, an American tour, which was Denver, Colorado Springs, Omaha, and there's one other utterly random place. And then I recently checked in, they still do that competition in Ireland, and they still do the tour, but the tour goes to Miami. You walk in the New York St. Patrick's Day Parade, it goes to Chicago, and it goes to Washington, D.C. It just got a lot better since I did it, but we were literally sitting in a fucking travel lodge or whatever, we're sitting in something in the middle of Denver going, what the fuck are we doing here? This is ridiculous. 3 hours last week, just watching the porn on the hotel telly. What are we doing here? This is mad. So I really got into telling jokes in front of crowds, and then a friend of mine was setting up a small kind of cabaret club and said, you should just do that, just try it. And because it sounded like a ridiculous thing to do, to be a comedian. It sounded like the maddest thing. It sounded like
you never even considered it that way.
No. The presumption of it, the level of actually, the notion of saying to your parents, oh no, I wish to, it was so, it's like, I'm going to run away to the circus. It felt that, the randomness of it all.
So it's, I think I read somewhere, it said the first few years of your career, traveling from Dublin to Donegal to play to 6 people.
Yep.
So you started out from there and started doing it.
Yeah.
And what made you persist through that? Did it get hard, or was it not that hard? Did you move pretty fast?
It went in waves a bit. The first few. What makes you persist is the joy of actually, when you discover the joy of actually being on stage, and so that joy was worth the drive.
So you loved it. You loved it from the get-go.
Yeah. And so I occasionally meet. If I meet another comic, and this seems to be a thing that isn't, I would say, universal. It certainly doesn't seem to be for certain American comics, that I meet another comic, I'm like, well, I'm delighted to meet you. You are part of this brotherhood of people who do this stupid thing. Because I know that I came from fucking maths, I came from science, whatever, and I'm being adored with these things. But this weird thing is in me that I need to be in front of a crowd, and I need to create a thing that a crowd will like. I need to get that love from those strangers, and that will push me to write like a show to get the boom boom laugh laugh off them. And if you're also a comic, you also have that. No matter where you came from, what direction, we have all been touched by a weird wand where someone went to 1 in 1,000 of the population went, you will need it, and you will need it, and it doesn't matter. Oh, are you currently a junior doctor? No. You will need to give that up and do that. You work in IT, but no, you don't. You want to be in that thing. And so it just randomly goes wherever it's, and it could be from anything. There isn't one path into it. So I tend to regard other comics as in a real fraternalist or kind of way that we're all, it doesn't matter what level you're at, we share this psychological flaw of no matter what we're doing, no matter how stable our lives could have been, we need to be in front of a crowd. We need to have that pure panic and thrill of performance. And I think it's a very rare and precious thing. Whatever, and it
certainly is. Everybody wants to find that thing where
it is striking that the circuit over here seems to foster a slightly more competitive, less friendly vibe. So sometimes when you meet comics from here, there's less of a brotherhood under the thing, more of a don't take my slots kind of a
really a little more competitive nature. Well, I think that maybe that's part of the culture. Possibly. In a way, maybe not. It helps drive everyone a little bit, maybe.
It's an interesting idea because there's times I've met, I'm not going to say on this, but some very well known who've just been a bit like, oh, okay, and you're going, okay, what do I need to, because also you're aware that because America is has a dome over it, and so it sees nothing from the rest of the world a lot of the time, and we see a very little of what's on just the day-to-day here. So, like, I'll drop into the Comedy Centre in New York with that comedian's table thing, and I'll walk in nervously. I did this a couple of times at the weekend. I'll walk in, I'll do a very tiny little loop around, shyly going, is there any, there's nobody I know here, and then I'll walk back out again, going, I don't know these people, they don't know me. And occasionally there'll be somebody like Todd Barry, who has gigged in London, and I'll go, hey, okay, great, I've got an in there.
Yeah, isn't he great? He's so smart.
There's a few little points of contact. Eugene Merman I'm seeing in a couple of days in Boston. There's a few people I know who've been over. Or I've
playing in Boston.
I've been
right?
in Boston.
You're playing the Wilbur, right? That's great.
Yeah.
I've heard so many great things about that venue. So.
Yeah. So but Wilbur's is the it's also the last gig of the entire tour. So and in a hilarious twist, in attending in the Wilbur will be my uncle, who I've never met because I only discovered he was my uncle about 3 weeks ago in a latter part of that Finding My Birth Mother story. And
right, because it's not just your mother and your
no,
sisters and your brother, and right?
That all has to happen. There's a whole other part to it, which I may or may not say in the next show. But but one of them will be in the show, and I was only talking to him today for the first time, Uncle Danny.
I mean, this is such an amazing Uncle Danny. Wow! So you're meeting him for the first time in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, but there's an even better show about a story about. Anyway, look, I can't. It's a long story, but the people who kind of go up at the whole. This particular thing, they said, well, why did you search for it? And you're going, and the large part of it was like, because I thought the story might be interesting. Fuck me, the story has been great. The story's been a really good story. And there's actually further stories from it that, like, whatever, because I never said.
Well, yeah, I mean, for people listening that don't know that haven't seen the show or don't know the story, you went in search of your birth mother during COVID, or you had.
It was just before COVID, and it was and basically it's a detective story about how Ireland made it incredibly difficult to do this, and Ireland hid all the secrets and didn't want people to know about it, and all opened. The weird punchline is, and it's drawn out and all that, like, whatever, and there's a whole resolution which is very pleasing in many ways, but it's still the show started as a kind of a rallying call to end this ridiculous law that you couldn't get your births or whatever. That, as it turned out, during the tour changed anyway. That law changed, so it's less of it's less.
It didn't have anything to do with you, right?
Turns out, sadly, nothing at all. And I was very tempted to, when we did a special, I was on the BBC, and we had a little frame at the end that says, that law was eventually changed, blah, blah, blah. And it goes, it is not referred to as Dara's law. or I had nothing to do with it, like, whatever. None of this is, I can claim credit for, but it was, it just happened to happen coincidentally at the same time. But it was weird, because normally I don't do like a sad story, as it were. I don't do that kind of thing. It was just this story happened, and
Yeah, well, it's not even sad when you watch it. I mean, you build the whole show up to where it's touching, it's moving, and there are moments as an audience member, when you're doing it right, you're everybody's connected, and you feel that, oh man, am I going to tear up or something? And there's a couple moments, right?
Yeah.
But then you weave the fun and the laughter right back into it very quickly, So it's, I mean, it's.
Well, partly because, like all comics, I am petrified of silence. So even if you have a sincere silence, there's a part of you going, you've lost them now. They're gone. Yeah. And there's a part of you going, and so it has taken an active nerve to go to draw that out as long as I have before going, I'll put in a joke now because I really need to, because the tension's getting to me at this stage by how, like, but actually, because you can't tell what is an attentive silence and what is a bored silence. They're the same noise.
You can't tell, or you can't?
I can't. I don't think you can.
You can.
Oh, okay,
I think you can.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I don't know. You're the one on stage, but you can feel if it's a pause that has weight to it, and you've structured it.
True. Yeah. You certainly know there's a tension that can be released, and there's one line in it where I read out the first time I ever got information from it, like, whatever, and I have to, and it's honestly, it's my favorite joke in the world. Because it's genuinely built on tension. It's not a smart arse line or a kind of a hey, have you ever noticed, blah, 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 kind of a thing, like, whatever. It's just that moment is tense, and I'm reading it these things, and it particularly works in Ireland and the UK because I have a long relationship with these audiences, and I read this information out, and your father was this, and your mother was this, and the room was incredibly quiet. And I go, I know what you're thinking, because every audience thinks the same thing at this point, which is, the glasses are new, and that line, particularly in Ireland, England, gets this huge laugh because it's because everyone's like, oh my God, and then. And it is the thing.
It's something simple,
you
right?
drop them,
Yeah.
and you just pick them up and you drop them like whatever, and then you go into back to the thing like whatever. But the glasses are new has always been my favorite because it's proper theatrical laugh because it's attention that you're releasing. And it works every time, and it's not a funny line. And I mean, in context, that may not have worked there, but it just always, I panic about not having the glasses because I fucking love that line so much that I'll go and do it. Because I could probably recite the thing now so often without glasses, but the whole, the glasses.
But it does. It's a way to relieve that tension, right? You'd probably, if you had to, survival-wise, and the glasses weren't there, I'm sure you'd find another way, right?
I once saw Joan Rivers. I did a gala with Joan Rivers about 20 years ago in Montreal. And I got bumped into the gala at the last minute. And Joan Rivers is hosting it. And Joan was on stage, did some various jokes, and had this dress over the dress she was wearing, just kind of hanging in a kind of slightly weird way, but it had this kind of white patch on it, and it was a Monica Lewinsky reference. She did a joke with Monica Lewinsky, and that was the semen stain on the dress or whatever. And it was like an okay joke, but it was a bit telegraphed, a bit of a thing. And it didn't get that much, like whatever. And this is the most important thing I ever saw. Joe Rivers went, I'm sorry, what? Are you not giving me a laugh for that? Like, do you know what I did to this dress to get that joke? Like,
do you know?
And then she fucking...
That's funny.
It's so good, because she basically punched the audience up.
Right.
And you come here, and you come here, sit in the cheap seats. I don't mean DK, I mean an actual Donna Karan, not your cheap bang, punch, punch, punch. Audience are all laughing at you, and then so I'm going to do that, you better laugh. And then whatever way she ended, the audience went, oh, and then huge, massive. And you kind of going, that is fucking years of experience to know that I'm not accepting you not laughing at that joke. So I'm just going to do a rant because I know when to drop the rant, and therefore I drop you, and you will applaud me.
And it's right there for you. You know what I did to get this jizz on this shit.
This is what you give me for this, like whatever. And it is a thing, because it's when you start off, you think if a joke goes bad, you think, oh fuck, go to the next joke. And then when you're older, you realize if a joke goes badly, hey, what the fuck didn't you laugh at that joke? That's a fucking good joke. Like, whatever, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you lot? And you flip it back on them, and they will pull together a laugh.
But you have to be a professional, I think. I don't think I could pull that off. Or just the layman, right? It's like, that's dangerous. If you say to an audience, hey, why don't you get my joke? Isn't that a little risky, right? I mean, you have to be able to deliver something even...
What sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes if they're very quiet, if they're just a quiet crowd, sometimes they'll be a quiet crowd, and you're going, "What the fuck is up with you lot? Jesus!" I've seen a number of these versions. I'm not pushing this snowball up the hill on my own. With one of these various different lines that comics have for this, where you basically push the audience together, even in the sense of you push them away. But by doing that, you push them together. So their reaction is like, oh, but they're pulled together. And then they start, it's rather being a boat of individuals, they start reacting as an audience. So even if you push them away for a while, they become this, please God, they become the animal of the audience rather than just a collection of individuals. That's the hope. Like they should all be reacting as one. If they're fucking not, and they're all a bit quiet and they feel a bit awkward in each other's company, give out to them, call them cunts, and let them go. And even they're in front of us. You go, great, now you're an us. And now I'm going to win you back.
Yeah,
anyway, I know
now
you're going
to weave them back in there.
But now you're this one animal of an audience, like whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was. I honestly sat there watching that at the side of the stage, going, "Oh, that's how you do it.
Yeah,
that's how you."
But how long does it take you to get to that point where you can really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pro, right?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, knowing how that tension works and how and seeing the energy change. Yeah, it is a while. You have to be done a few.
You got to have a lot under your belt.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I presume you get better and better at doing that. Yeah. I mean, the audience chat, for example, on some nights where I do, hey, who's here? Sometimes that works beautifully. Sometimes it's like that flows from a thing, and then I can do that, and I can expand that, and I can bring you back in again, and it's like conducting. It's beautiful because your brain is going, that is a bit like this, and I go, thank you very much, brain. I feel it is a bit like that, and I will put that in, like whatever, and it'll go very well. Sometimes you're very good at making it appear like that's what's happening, even though your brain is offering you nothing, and you can make the audience laugh in a kind of a, oh, what's that about kind of a way, and you yourself will go in and go, That was a bit, was a bit shallow, it was a bit shit. But I fucking seemed to fall for it. But that wasn't my best work there.
Right,
but you have enough tricks.
Well, you play your hand.
Yeah.
You know, you play what you're getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But,
And sometimes it doesn't give you diamonds or whatever to work with. It's,
Well, a lot of it is your own brain going, no, I'm not in this game today. Sometimes it's as simple as, you travelled today and you didn't get a nap before the show, and I'm tired, and I don't want to point out to you that the man said he's a submarine captain, and isn't that a bit like the guy a minute ago? I'll point that out to you. After the gig, I'm going to hold on. When you leave the building, I will say, do you know what you could have done with the guy who claimed he was a submarine captain? But I'm not going to tell you that now. And you go, fuck you, brain. That would have been really handy at the time.
Right.
And sometimes it just doesn't do it.
How important is preparation?
It's useful it's nice to have a couple of things about where you are. And I don't mean in a kind of a local colour for the natives kind of, patronising kind of a way. But it's nice to at least register. This is where we are. It feels. I hate it when there are times when you do a tour and you go bang, bang, bang. And Ottawa this year, for example, we arrived into town. It's the only second I've ever been in Ottawa, and we arrived in at 3:00 that day. And I thought, well, there's just enough time for me to go and have a walk around Ottawa, and then. Just as I was about to do that, I got a phone call from home from my daughter who was panicking about a maths exam she had, and could I go through various questions with her. And I spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours on a Zoom call to my daughter going, no, what this is, that. And then realised, I haven't seen Ottawa. And you go to the venue and it's like, hey, it's great to be here in Ottawa. Yeah. City of contrasts. Like you want to have something.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
you were a little ill prepared, I guess.
Yeah. And they don't know us after the couple minutes, but it does add something. If you at least look like you've engaged, I know where we are. I know roughly who you are, and I'm not just rolling off a tour bus and rubbing my eyes.
But in that case, though, I mean, it's your daughter, right? She needed your help.
I know.
Right?
There's no way of going, honey, Daddy has to walk around the town centre and just soak in the atmosphere for a thing. And also the soaking of the atmosphere thing is, I've got in trouble for this before because we did Vienna for the first time I'd ever done Vienna, and I rang my wife and she said, how's it going? And I said, it's great. I went to a musical concerto. I'm going to have some dinner now. And she said, what do you mean the show? And I said, well, no, the show's not till tomorrow. And she said, why are you there now? I said, because I have to go. I go over a day early just to get a sense of the place. And she's like, for fuck's sake, you're just on a holiday. Don't fucking bullshit me. It's really important that I went to see the classical music concert in Vienna the day before the show. So I had a joke about
you
the woman
used
the violin,
it, right?
like whatever. I did use it, but there's an element of like this particular tour is taking 2 weeks. We're doing 5 shows. And I was going, why is it taking, why did you have to spend 5 days in New York for one show? I said, it's just, it's really important that I get a sense of the city and the people.
It's like going the extra mile, right? In terms of, it is a better experience as an audience member. If you're weaving in, you're in Chicago, if you're weaving in some of your experiences over the last couple of days and they're interesting and a fun perspective when you have a chance, I love that when comedians do that. I think it really adds to the experience.
That's the experience for me. It makes it a bit more rich. I mean, the only fear, there's a nagging fear of you going, God, I hope not everyone says this. Right. Yeah, that is the last time we did Washington, we were in a theatre called the Lincoln Theatre. The Lincoln Theatre is in an area of a thing called Black Broadway, because I think it was at the time when it was built, that was where all the theatres were for the Black Entertainment Centre for that time, like whatever. And it's an amazing theatre, and there's a big statue of Lincoln in the huge, massive waxwork of Lincoln in the window at the front, like whatever. And I walked out and I said, in the sound check, I said, hey, it's great to be here in the Lincoln Theatre. It's incredible to think that this is the building in which President Ford was assassinated. And I was doing the sound check, right? And then the audience, the sound guy was going, and I went, does everyone do that joke? And he goes, everyone does that joke. So every fucker comes in here and goes, the Ford for Lincoln got assassinated. And I thought it was an incredibly clever joke about trivia about American history.
No one else has thought totally.
Every single fucker comes out and says the exact same line about the Lincoln Theatre. And I go, fair point, shut it down. So that is the fear that you'll make some lame joke about upside down pizzas or something, and people will go, okay.
I've heard it a million times.
Yeah. But not in my accent. No, that's also happened.
So with the American tour of your show, you started this before the pandemic.
No,
right?
no, no.
No, you started this
immediately after the pandemic. This one came after it. There was a
right.
tour. There was a previous tour that got cut short. So in the middle of this tour, I had to go back and do the old show. There was a week where I had to unlearn this show, relearn the old show, go to Canada, do a 2-week trip of the old show, then come back, unlearn the old show, relearn the new show, record the DVD or record the special on that weekend, and then carry on with the new show. So there's a very confusing bit where I was kind of jumping between two shows. That was I think there's a physical limit to how much stuff you can keep maybe 3 hours in your head at any given time of comedy. So I've forgotten. I've written about 8 or 9 or 10 2-hour shows. I can't remember any of the early ones. Can't remember them.
They just go. I mean, your brain needs space.
The first
right?
one, it's honestly it's like you've got a shelf, and each of them takes up that amount of space in the shelf, and the shelf's that big. So when you put a new one in, it just pushes most of the other one off, and then the next one will come on, and it'll push that off, like whatever. So I vaguely remember some classic routines because I did them a few times after, but like or the ones that get quoted, but like there's whole chunks of stuff that, and then I'll find notes about them, old set lists, and there was one that said nail wall Indonesia. I went, no, I remember nail, I remember wall. I don't remember Indonesia. And for about 6 months, I refused to watch the DVD to see if I could just remember the Indonesia joke. It's actually quite a good joke. I did on something recently. But it was, I could, and I clearly had done it a million times. And clearly, all I needed was the word Indonesia. And I go, oh yeah, that joke, right. But no, it was, yeah.
So with this show, where were we? That's the.
So where were we?
Being
the Irish phrase of like, it was very much the intention was we're just going to pick up where we left off and act like nothing happened. That was the intention because it was October 2021. Right. The hidden bit is obviously it's a reunion phrase and the show's about reunions. And
that's what it is. Okay, I was trying to put that together. Is that because it has so much more depth with your mother and your
I
being
very
adopted.
Much, I used to have a very trite line where I'd say, and the first thing I said to her, so where were we? That'd link into the show, but actually it felt a bit clumsy to refer to the title of the show. But it was. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily the intention of that, but it did give us a slight extra. No one ever spots that. You can put themes into comedy shows. No one ever spots that.
But when they do, it's
nice. I mean,
there's
the first half of the show has a section about my dad, my adoptive mother, and my adoptive mother, my parents, the ones who raised me, right? I use the phrase twice. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I deliberately use that phrase twice in the first half, talking about a trait that he has and a trait that she has. And the stories are funny stories and put them in.
These are your adopted parents?
My adopted parents, yeah. About him, about a thing that he steals chocolate from chocolate box in the house, and her about how she tells stories. And I use the phrase, because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, twice. I underline it to a certain extent. And that's there kind of sort of as an antidote to the excitement people feel about this new search and the new parent. And you kind of want to go, yeah, but actually, these people are the ones who actually raised me and created me. This is lovely and it's interesting. It's nice to meet this woman and hopefully give, closure on this particular story for her and we're still in contact. That's all very nice. But you still need a little bit of a tribute to the actual and like how your character was forged by these two other individuals rather than this woman you just met. And so that I put that in twice. No one has ever spotted that. No one has ever spotted the thing. Like whatever. It's really weird. We don't get written about in the same way. We put effort into writing these things. And we put like hidden things, stories, back references, stuff like that. Tribute to other comics. No one ever spotted.
Ever?
Very rarely. Very rarely. Yeah. There are lines in that every time I do them, I know, that's because that's a half a tribute to Mitch Hedberg, who did a line once 20 years ago. So I put a little thing, and there's a little tiny bit of a little rhythm thing, the same of a joke he did. A friend of mine has a particular joke that I love, so I have a little tribute to her in this one feed into a punch, whatever this guy. So she'll go, when she sees it, like whatever. But there are all these little grace notes you put in, like, whenever spots it. It's not an art form that gets written about in any serious critical way a lot of the times, unfortunately. Sure. And they are our albums, they are our novels, right, that we write, but they're done and people watch them, they're gone, and it's a very strange thing.
It still, I think, makes it richer.
Look, it's more fun for me,
Sure. So how did your adopted parents how did they feel about it?
They were fan. They I think the very much philosophy was it's your story to tell. That was, I think, all of them adopted from birth sort of had that sense about it. It was, I think, probably in some ways slightly stranger for my birth mother, who didn't firstly didn't know I was going to get in contact. Knew I existed, obviously, but didn't know. I suddenly got in contact. Not only did I get in contact, I came with the tag of like, oh, I will be performing a show about you for the next 2.5 years, and it will be on the telly in Britain and in Ireland. So keep an eye out for that. Like, you'll be referred to as that, like whatever. She eventually did watch the show. Actually, when I went out in the BBC, she sat down. She watched. She didn't go to it live, but she went to see the show when it went on the telly, and she rang and said, "Look, there was one line she didn't like, and I know why she didn't like it, because it's me being a bit casual with something." And I said, "Look, that's nobody takes that seriously. It's obviously me being it's a silly, one of the silly jokes I do to relieve the tension." That was the one she thought, I think may have misrepresented her, but I think pretty much I don't tell anything that it wasn't. I don't tell her story to a certain extent. That she wouldn't. I don't give anything identifying away. It's all covered over in a certain way, so I don't think there's anything that she's, and she's quite private. So I'm an unusual person to pop out of into her life and go. The other two have sort of had to put up with me talking about things in public, but I don't do that much because I think there's a responsibility to people who don't choose this life, that you can't blab their stories. And I feel slightly like you can't be going on about their stuff like this. But they've been okay about it. They've not commented specifically on this show, but then they're getting on. They don't watch a lot of, he's 87, she's 94. They don't watch a lot of stand-up comedy. Like
well, then I won't press too much on that. I do find it, the whole thing. I enjoy, being able to laugh in a show and being able to kind of connect in a human way to watch somebody's experience that is, shakes you up a little bit inside, and there are moments in your show that hit you like that, where you bring people into the story so strongly. So you're there and you're imagining what it would feel like. So it really, it's hard to explain. As an audience member, you take someone there, right? So you're feeling those emotions. So it brings up a bunch of questions for me about like, wow, this is an emotional thing all around. Your parents, but both sides, how they're handling, and of course you do have to protect. Who knows? They might not want you to talk. About how what it was like for them. I mean, it's such a...
Well, it is. It's
delicate.
It's because it's a secret for them, and if you imagine the situation that caused them to take this path, and it would be there's an element of like that the implications of this in terms of their own lives as a couple, and then what happened, what didn't happen, all that kind of stuff, like and you kind of go and you can be.
Did they have regret? Did they not? Is there what pain? I mean, there's emotions. There's real stuff there. And you just want to be respectful of it. Everyone tells their own story. You're telling your story, right?
Yeah, and most everything I say is like there's only very few stuff. There's a couple of details that my birth mother gave me about how the moment, the time that it happened, that I've put into the show, but very little about her own journey and what happened and before and after all, because that's not mine to tell. And I kind of do that. But there's enough. I at the very start had a point where I say I would ask audience if they had any questions. And actually, there weren't that many, as it wasn't that people left. Well, you've left us hanging. Who's your dad? Or you left. What happened then? Or they weren't that many. People were very, very content. Occasionally, people would go. Was a bit weird that you were really well known. When you emerged,
that's unusual.
Yeah,
too,
that is. To be fair to them, they played it very cool. It was very impressive. They kind of acted, and then only later, like months later, they were just chatting to one of the sisters, and she said, just throwaway comment, because he acted like, oh right, and you're working in London now, and all like, oh great, and are you it's all very kind of like, oh well, that's great, it's very interesting to meet you. And then about 6 months later, she was saying something about something. She said, oh yeah, well we remember when you moved over to London the first time. And we're thinking, how is it going to go from there? Because you're very, because you left the show, and she's naming individual shows. I go, fucker, you pretended
you didn't know anything about me. Yeah, you know everything.
No, you're the best people in Ireland. Like, for God's sake, of course you know who you are.
She's been a fan for years.
All know that, like whatever. There was another detail that I made a contact reading with a cousin on my father's side, and I said, yeah, well, we may have to do a thing, and it's a great detail, but I can't remember the truth. She said, we have to do a DNA test where we check, and she says, oh, you don't. She says, you don't. Sure, look, you're like, she said, my brother, and I wrote the name for him, he had to grow a beard because he looked too much like you.
This is before they even knew. He was getting called out
kept
as
going, you look a lot
Dara
like
Ó
your man on the
Briain.
telly. And then he had to fuck that, and he grew a beard to look less like me. So that was, I think, was a lovely detail that I went,
That's
okay,
cool.
fair enough, I probably can save myself, 170 quid on a DNA test there, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Like, that's fair enough. Like, so.
Have you mined all that you or do you feel good about? Is there any more that you need
There
to?
is a kind of an upbeat, funny story from the latter part of it, from the search for my dad, that the people in question are delighted, and I will do that here. I will do that in the next one. I'm going to write that and see how because it has various things and it's got a good punch on it, but it's much more and thing. So it's really nice. So so I'll do that, like whatever. But do as in have a mind, MINED, have a mind, have I drawn everything I can out of it? I think so, and I think I would be quite happy the next time just to do a funny show, just to do, this has been very satisfying to do, but like it's not like I'm not sitting here going I've written a hit misery memoir and now I've got to find more misery for the follow-up.
No,
book.
I actually meant with the question: Have you with your birth parents, have you not, mind is the wrong word, but are you satisfied with the search and the
genuinely in life?
revelation? Yeah,
I am. It's good. I mean, I think it's an interesting one that with all these searches, and anyone who's done this, there's a common thing that there's a huge flurry of interest initially, and then it may settle into you in contact with some, because your own family, they're just the ones who are there all the time. And so, at some point at the end of this show, there's definitely a point where I have spoken about these people more than I've spoken to them. And at some point when I've stopped traveling the world constantly, which I'll do for the next year or so, I've got to see about, right, well, what am I doing here in terms of a relationship with these people? How much do I want to stay? And you've got to consciously, like anything, how much am I going to nurture this thing? There are a couple of people that I've met, a couple of sisters and cousins, whatever, in particular, who are a fantastic addition to my life, and I'm going, great, that's fantastic. I'm not sure whether or not I won't become like very active, I don't think, because they're in another country and it's that kind of thing. But it's kind of weird. But the initial bit is like, oh my God, what incredible! We've got this new member of the family. Yeah. It always kind of quietens down after that. It's interesting. And we'll see. And then I got to fucking find some other piece of sadness to do a partnership.
So you think about a year.
We're doing this one of the. This is January 31st. This time next year, I have to have a 2-hour show in Vicar Street in Dublin. I think it's the 25th of January we're starting. So, I got a year. The clock, the starting gun is fired the minute I say thank you very much, good night to the Wilbur on the 5th of February. That is it. Like, and then I gotta fucking.
You gotta come up with
a new one.
Yeah.
I gotta come up with a new one. Like,
it's exciting.
It is. Blank page. Who knows?
You seem jazzed about it. I mean, maybe you're like this all the time. But but
it's not like I'm sitting on. Yeah, I can because I can finally do all.
Yeah.
It's not like this is my saucy Jack. This project I've had in the back burner. I can't wait to do. You know what I mean? Like But it's but I just gotta start again with the whole thing. And so, but I mean, I tried to.
Maybe your uncle will lead to something.
Maybe it will. Oh, it could be the whole Danny show. Speaking to him today, I didn't think he would particularly tempting. He seems like a lovely fella, but I don't think he's going to do. But he's, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what comes of that, like whatever. But I don't know. It's totally a blank canvas.
Well, man, Dara, I feel like I could ask you a million questions and talk your ear off for hours, and we got a show to do soon. But I want to try to get a couple other things in.
Go on.
Quickly, because we're at showtime in like 1 hour.
So
you tell me too.
Yeah.
Man, I heard you met Stephen Hawking.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
fantastic individual, incredible. And also like a really interestingly awkward. There was a bit in where the first time I was talking to him, I panicked, as people do when they talk to people who have that condition, because he takes a number of minutes to write a reply. So you'll walk in and go, hello, how are you? Lovely to see you. I hope you're keeping well. Are you looking forward to tonight's event? Whatever. It was actually at the premiere of the movie. And so I was talking to him in the hotel beforehand. And he then starts composing an answer. And I fucking panicked. I absolutely was like, and I'm like, oh, anyway. So, and I'm trying to fill the thing, whatever. And the team around him are very patiently just gave me a chair and sat me down in the chair and said, you're all right. And it was like the most awkward thing. And we were looking back over the rushes of the video, the thing for the documentary, because this is for a BBC documentary. And the documentary said, look, can we put that in where you're? And I said, it's really awkward. It's really like I'm burbling. And he said, yeah, but it's, And we said, okay, great, we'll put it in. Like, okay, fine, let's put that in. And then a while later, I was walking through Edinburgh Festival and I bumped into two women who work with motor neuron disease. And they said, thank you for putting in the bit where it was really uncomfortable and you didn't know what to do, because nobody knows what to do. It's so strange to have to wait 5-10 minutes for an answer. And just calm the fuck down. And just fine. They're working on that. You can talk to somebody else. They will respond when they have, in the time that it takes them to write the response. And she said, I really appreciated that going out. And then by the end of the thing, we were much more relaxed and I was much more able to.
Because I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
In meeting, I would have never considered it. I just thought it would spit it out faster, the machine or whatever.
It was 10 minutes for a long sentence. And
wow.
And so you would wait. And you just learn to wait, and you'd say things, and then you'd weigh up what you're going to say, and then the response would be the answer. There was a point at the end where he said something, a quote, which is, I said, because obviously for a long time he had withheld death to a certain extent. That's probably the one way to put it, because what he had, he should have got. He either
by massive amounts of time.
Yes, exactly, right? Hugely, yeah. And it was like, and I said, I need a quote that said, "How can I die when I have so much to discover about the universe?" Was a quote that he had. And I said, that's an incredible quote. And I said, and I read it in the interview, and I said, I'm going to get that printed on shirts if that's okay with you, because it's a great quote. But we'll go 50-50. And then there's a pause, and I went, okay, 60-40. And there's another pause, and I said, all right, 70-30. But I'm not budging on that, like, whatever. And it was a nice little funny moment. And then we carry on doing something. And then 8 minutes later, from the voice, it goes, 80-20, final offer.
So it was like a 40-minute negotiation.
Yeah. Exactly. But he really played his cards. And then So he was funny. He was a very, very funny man.
I heard that. But it's probably what contributed to his longevity in some ways, right?
There is. Again, he got phenomenally good care and all that kind of thing, like whatever. But he was exceptional in the sense of he was an exception too. But what was interesting was he was, as an astonishing individual, he lived in a very ordinary, normal life in many ways. And so, there was one bit where I'm just reading him a newspaper, and like somebody was sitting in the kitchen and just read him stories from the newspaper that they think he might find interesting. And then it didn't go into the documentary. It's like, it was the sweetest bit. I'm going, oh look, they've discovered a jetpack, and or saunas, will make you live longer. We're just chatting. Me reading out the Guardian newspaper, the big newspaper in England. And then the documentarists rang the Guardian and said, look, we've got a scene where they're reading out something from the Guardian, and the paper went, oh no, you can't have that. You need to pay us £5,000 for having read our words in a documentary. And nobody said to him, no. So it's Hawking. Hawking is being read, because the person, the guy who went and gone, oh yeah, actually fine. Yeah, that'd be fucking amazing, because it'd be our paper being read to Stephen Hawking. That's a brilliant thing. But somehow it wasn't explained to him, and they said, no, you need to pay us £5,000, and so they couldn't put it in. So that little vignette of him, because one of the papers stupidly started asking for money for it, like, and you're going, yeah, well,
is not have it, or have it and get the marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really weird. I just think somebody didn't join the dots correctly and didn't go, look, we're not going to pay that. We can't afford that. But for fuck's sakes, man, this is somebody reading the Guardian in his kitchen to him, and him kind of nodding along. You want this as a thing, just as an incidental. But somebody fucking screwed it up, but in the nature of people stepping in and going, yeah, no, I don't want my song used.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, because I get the flip side of that stuff like that too, where people abusing somebody else's work.
Absolutely. But I think it could have been explained better, and they would have probably gone.
Good deal. Some deal could have been made. Yeah. I had this written down here, but I can't find it. That Stephen, something about what Stephen said to you, or when you asked him a question about believing in God, and he said fairy tales for God, what is the quote here?
I don't remember a specific one that he said.
Oh man, I need to find this. I wish I'd remembered it, but yeah, it was it was a quote that he said about but that he's an atheist, and that basically what it, I guess my question is, what do you believe?
Oh, sorry. Oh, well, I mean, it's very matter of fact thing to be atheist in Ireland and the UK these days. There isn't we find the kind of American thing of like, somebody I've just had a touchdown, whatever. That we find the primacy of religion in Americans to be really weird. Outside of really, they really do that a lot. The whole God thing. It's not anywhere near. I mean, there is, in the machinery of state, and there are churches everywhere, both in Ireland and in the UK, and there's all that kind of stuff, like whatever. But day-to-day people aren't particularly religious. I don't think and I'm not at all. I mean, but I'm not angry in I have killed God with logic kind of a way. I don't sense any. I don't think there's any. If I look into my heart, there's no dial going off for spirituality at all, like whatever. So it's not like I feel that I wrestled with God and mathematics won, or some sort of thing that people presume that I think, whatever. There's no intellectual arguments, but it's just I don't have any sense of spirituality about that at all. Yeah. And so, but also it may also be a reaction to the fact that I was raised in it, and I know tons about biblical stories, and I know hymns to go out the wazoo, like, and all that, but just like a lot of Irish people, I kind of stepped away from it the first chance I did. Our parents' generation were a lot more religious than we are, and our example of what the church's effect on society wasn't uniformly positive. So we kind of, you went, okay, yeah, we need to wrestle a society from the church. And so a series of referendums over that 20 years, allowing for divorce, allowing for abortion, allowing for various gay marriage, has basically been people going, yeah, okay, enough with the church now, thanks. We'll decide what shape Ireland should have. So there's been two separate things going on. One is like its malign influence on freedoms in Ireland is a whole thing. It's history with child abuse. It's and the thing about the Macklin laundries and all that kind of, that's a whole thing. But just on a personal level, I just don't.
Sure. I mean, I'm more interested, and the reason I jumped to that from Stephen Hawking is, and the study of the universe and existence and all that is what made me curious about what maybe you gleaned from him in that from that point of view. But rather than I totally get what you're saying about society, the different religions and the Catholic religion and its effect on cultures and societies, and but. What I wanted to just ask as one of the questions is more along the lines of that, when you were asking him about that, or talking to him about that, because a guy like this who's looking at the depths of the universe as far as a human can, and he's coming to the conclusion that there's nothing out there. I just me personally, I've always also been kind of an atheist, and not. As I get older, one thing is sort of starting to hit me recently about tech, and it's kind of connected to technology. The more I see, the way things are developing technology-wise, I look at this and go, I mean, couldn't this one day, this kind of thing, become a god-like thing in terms of you want to create whatever?
It would certainly be regarded as miraculous if you didn't understand what the hell it was doing. Like, it is insane, like whatever. And certainly if you brought somebody from a culture that didn't have any of this, and you said, "There's the box here, which I can do. I can talk to all over the world, or I can find out anything I do." That would seem, but and I think a lot of it was historically. Again, we might just you might think that a lot of it is a comforting answer to very difficult questions that we don't have the actual answer to, and that's come from to know that, okay, well, maybe this is the realm of God, that we don't know why people die, or why this happens, or why bad things, or why good things. So therefore, this is a kind of an answer that gives a comforting kind of shape to the universe, that there exists a creature, a creation, a creator, that does that. I know that Hawking, although I wouldn't want to speak for him on this, like whatever, but the sort of regretted the pat line at the end of Brief History of Time about, if we know this, then we might know the mind of God. Because it made it sound like he was very religious, which he wasn't. It was just a kind of a wrap-up line, unfortunately, and it became very famous, that line at the end about knowing it. But I think as well as that, God, and this was much more thing when people were angrily fighting about intelligent design. I remember intelligent design. It was one of those kind of theories to try to kill evolution. That it puts a limit. It puts a point where that you can't ask beyond. Oh no, God stepped in there and God made that, and you're going. Well, if you just take God out for a second, let's try let's ask why this or whatever. There's no, the point in whether the Big Bang or is actually the stuff before the Big Bang, or whether if that makes sense is the question. Or evolution or the whole thing. These questions are all much more interesting if you don't at some point insert an omnipotent being who does all the stuff.
Right.
And instead,
don't you always insert it at the end of it? Like, what the next step?
There's no. I mean, it's a quite. It's in the universe popping out of an inflationary bubble on possibly some giant manifold of different bubbles, and appearing and shooting up and disappearing, whatever, who knows. They're all really interesting questions that we find very difficult to get answers on. They don't need at some point some being to have clicked its fingers and have it happen. Like, they could be just because. So
mathematics can solve like the sort of infinite problem, the sort of
possibly, certainly the search for solutions is infinitely more interesting when you don't place a limit on what you're allowed to know. If you don't place a limit on, if you don't suddenly put a Deus Ex Machina in to have done the thing, and you actually go, well, how would it have happened in the absence of there being somebody going, poof? Then they get to a much more interesting question. That's anyway. I have to go and do a show.
You got to go do a show. Dara Ó Briain, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It was an absolute pleasure.
I mean, anyone who sat through all of that, like, whatever it's called.
We've got to do